So we have how World of Warcraft became unstoppable. Let's do this.
I'm gonna be honest. Retail WoW is dead.
Yeah, the world of Warcraft is dead.
World of Warcraft
That's
is
a great
dead.
start.
WoW is dead.
No one plays World of Warcraft.
Stop holding on to it.
WoW is just actively getting worse.
World of Warcraft is one of the longest lasting and most popular games in the world that people couldn't get enough of.
World of Warcraft, I need to play!
Yet since it released, it's been predicted to fail year after year after year.
The problem is that even if World of Warcraft lose half of its player base, 75% of their of its player base, it's still gonna be the most played game or the most played MMO of all time. Like this, they have so many players that even if they lose a good portion of them, they're still the most popular. And I think part of it is because they started in 2004, where all the games were basically trash, or like the best thing was World of Warcraft in the time, and by a large margin. So everyone was playing World of Warcraft and just World of Warcraft, and it just made the king that WoW is, the king of MMO.
Again.
But how can a game that got 10 expansions in 20
Why
years,
can't
over
do that?
12 million
Yeah.
people's credit cards to play every single month, and the world's biggest Hollywood stars completely addicted, be dying?
On the topic of your World of Warcraft obsession, at what point did you realize that you were in too deep and needed to quit cold turkey?
When my agent would sign on to talk to me.
According to the sales,
I was Asian even figured it out, dude. His agent was connecting to World of Warcraft, or probably on Battle.net, to just ping her and be like, yo, you need to work. But, dude, I would be smarter than that. In the Battle.net, you always have that option to go offline. Dude, I would just be go offline. I'm not there.
World of Warcraft was far from dead. So I wanted to learn how it was somehow able to survive decades while newer,
She was not
quadruple
still too addicted yet.
games could barely make it a week. I mean, this one didn't even make it a day.
The crew is gathering.
Oh,
Would you like to
Concord,
join us
yeah.
for it?
This is not a good
But to
comparison.
find Blizzard's
Okay.
real secret, we'd have to go back to the beginning. Actually, that's probably a little too far back, isn't it?
Yeah, we need to come back to something like Ultima
There
Online,
we
maybe?
go. But obviously, this isn't World of Warcraft. And that's because to truly understand WoW, we need to talk about EverQuest, a massively multiplayer online fantasy game that Blizzard employees couldn't get enough of. See, for most of us in the 90s, multiplayer meant split screen on GoldenEye, no odd jobs allowed. But EverQuest didn't feel like multiplayer, it felt like a home. Which gives the guys at Blizzard an idea. You see, they were such huge fans of EverQuest that they could see all the problems the game had. For example, if a player died, they'd have to walk all the way back to their body without...
This is what we need for video games nowadays. Gamers making game for gamers, not developers making games for money. That's the problem we have today. That's it.
any of their gear to protect them.
And that's what they did.
If they were killed by another player, that player could take one of their hard-earned items to keep forever. And regardless of how the player died, their experience would drop for every death. Meaning if you put yourself in a tricky situation, you could lose hours, if not days of experience.
It was the norm back in the day, by the way.
Warcraft 3, Blizzard decides it's time they craft their own MMO. It'd be a new world filled with wars that they could call their own. Sure, some folks called it strategic inspiration, but most folks called it
World of Warcraft in 2004. Let's go.
Now at this point, Blizzard's just released 3 of the world's greatest games within half the time Grand Theft Auto 6 has been in development.
Still one of the best. Those 3 games are still one of the best games of all times. Fucking hell, man! This, oh my god, I'm not a big fan of StarCraft. I'm not a big player of StarCraft, but Diablo 2 and Warcraft, man, these games, wow, masterpiece. Well, StarCraft is still a masterpiece. I'm just not a StarCraft player.
Within half the time Grand Theft Auto 6 has been in development. Look, I don't know what was in the water at Blizzard, but it was clearly working. Because when you saw a game with this logo on it,
they had the passion.
Guaranteed
That's the thing.
You were getting a Ratatouille moment. And World of Warcraft was no different because everyone was playing it.
We're fans. I am an orc shaman. And Tom is an orc warrior.
You see,
she doesn't look like she's playing. She just looked like a mom that just is so in encouraging his son in what he likes that she's willing to cosplay herself and go to Access Hollywood. I'm not sure what this is, but and just go there because his son likes it. She's like, if he likes it, I'm good with it. I'm in. That's the kind of mom you want, man. She's all in. I like that.
Shaman. And
Shaman?
Tom is an orc warrior.
You see, Blizzard's really good at one thing most game developers seem to ignore. Where everyone else seeks to over-design new concepts or ideas, Blizzard does the exact opposite, seeking to simplify what already works.
Really opening up what had been a relatively niche genre to the broader audience of gamers from all walks of life.
For example,
that guy was
World of Warcraft players were split into two morally gray factions of Alliance or Horde, with each faction getting their own playable races, building on the tribal nature humans already have. You see, for the Alliance, you could play as Night Elves, Gnomes, Dwarves, or humans. Whereas the Horde had cows that turned to cats, religious hulks, Jamaican avatar people with tusks, and what I could only describe as people who comment skill issue. You know who you are. But they go further by fixing every problem they found in EverQuest so that their game would be as accessible as possible for anyone to play.
You can't go to the bathroom, you're stacking Sunder armor.
Iconic Warcraft characters would be interacted with to gain quests that subtly progressed players through new locations. Dying was no longer a scary nightmare of penalties because you could be returned to your body as an invincible ghost. And
unless there's a rogue that kills you over and over and over and over and over and over, and when you think he's done, he's still there. That sucks. At least you didn't lose any progress, but still lost 2 hours of your life.
Mounts were provided to make going from place to place the greatest thing ever. But that wasn't all.
Yeah, the mounts were fun.
WoW built in social features from the start, so raiding a dungeon...
I think that was also new in MMOs, the mounts. I don't think it was that new, but I don't know. I think World of Warcraft was not the first one to invent it, but I think it was not as popular in recent MMOs.
Or making friends was as easy as possible.
It was easy.
Hey.
Zog zog.
However, with all that success came a few problems.
A lot of those first months were spent really just trying to keep up with demand, just trying to stabilize the service to get to a point where players could...
If you think the servers are bad now, you know, when you have the first 3 days of the expansion are bad, like you lag and sometimes you experience disconnect. This lasted for more than a month in the original Classic WoW. And people were not even mad. They're like, it's fine, it's part of the process. They're not even mad. Oh, it was so bad.
From work, log in and not have to wait or not have their servers be down due to load.
Because unlike their previous games, World of Warcraft was a 24/7, always online world millions of people were paying to work every single month, including really powerful people like Superman.
You were home, but you were playing World of Warcraft.
I remember this guy was playing
and
well.
you were like, "I'll get that later."
Yeah. Unless
you have your priorities straight. I mean,
around, downtime was not an option.
Exactly.
Now, for context, this game took 8 years, 169 people, and like we said earlier, barely made it a day with the backing of $1 billion Sinister Six obsessed company.
What?
So to keep up with new content, maintenance, customer support, and bug fixing, the WoW team had to be massive.
Nope.
But no,
fucking small Blizzard back in the day.
They made the entire game with 40 people.
You go. I'm pretty sure they're like 1,000 now, and they still make worse content.
So naturally, Blizzard employees were feeling a little pressure. Sure, a massive world with accessible gameplay players could socialize in was part of the reason for World of Warcraft's longevity, but keeping the game up and running for millions of people to play any second of the day? Yeah, that seemed like something they needed to solve.
Dude, with 40 devs, they made every classes we almost know today, every races we know today. They made all the models, all the zones. Probably some of them were made from the World of Warcraft, the Warcraft models, but still, they made all the zones, all the mechanics, the combat animations. They corrected the bugs. They made the world. They made every freaking thing with 40 people. Nowadays, they just have to expand on what was already made, and they have trouble doing it with probably, I don't know, fucking like 7 to 10 times the workforce. This is insane. 2007.
After 3 exhausting years,
First
Blizzard
extension.
hired a ton of new devs, fixed a ton of problems, and now morale's a lot higher. Sort of.
What?
But with this expansion, Blizzard's feeling confident that they know exactly why players loved World of Warcraft. Because with the Burning Crusade, they add 2 new playable races right out the gate. High Fantasy Blood Elves for the Horde and what look like Space Goats for the Alliance. The game gets the level cap bumped from 60 to 70, and flying mounts are added for the very first time.
That was a mistake. Flying mounts were a mistake in Mist of what am I talking about? In Burning Crusade, that was a big mistake. This was the end of world PvP as people knew it. Probably a good idea from, I don't know. It was fine in DBC because you had to collect the gold to get it, and it was only the high-end player that had the flying mount, and near the end of the expansion, everybody had it. But after that, right, everybody had a flying mount for every single expansion.
Yeah. We had to figure out how to let characters fly.
Except what's most interesting is Blizzard does something new that pushes the game to the next level. You see, Warcraft 3 was beloved by everyone who played it, specifically because of its story and amazing characters. So in this expansion, they bring back one of those amazing characters, Illidan frickin' Stormrage. I mean, just look at that guy. He looks frickin' goose-tastic. But that's not all, because they also make getting to the expansion's new zone a historic event.
They don't do that anymore. These kind of events, right? The Dark Portal event, that was big.
World of Warcraft was a full-time job. So the day that the expansion hits, players from all over the world collectively take a sick day to gather around this portal, the Dark Portal.
What are your symptoms?
I have the chills, I'm feeling nauseous, and my head's killing.
And the beauty of the Dark Portal was the second that the expansion released, it'd be open for everyone to experience at the same time. It didn't matter if you were a Blood Elf or a Space Goat. Everyone was going to Outland to stop Illidan and the Burning Legion. Quite frankly, when the Burning Legion hit store shelves, everyone's 9-to-5 job went through the same existential crisis.
I'm in danger!
Because it sells.
I wonder if this was actually a problem when World of Warcraft TBC came out. Do you think there was actually some jobs that so many people called sick that it was not even possible to run? that would be funny as fuck.
2.4 million copies in the first day, and hits a new milestone of 10 million.
How many copies per like game store did they have? Well, they have like fucking not more than 20 or something per game store. Maybe 50. 50 is already a lot of them. God damn.
And actively paying subscribers.
Okay.
Look, I'm no mathematician, but that seems like a lot of what Mr. Krabs would call money. Somehow Blizzard topped the original World of Warcraft in what looked like every way possible.
There was more to do, more to earn, more to seek, more to explore.
From the outside looking in, it looked like World of Warcraft would be safe so long as it focused on expanding the world with great characters players could rally towards.
Yep.
But if that's really all it took, then the real question was, could they do it again?
Man, Wrath. Of course they can do it again. Wrath was insane. 2008.
Yes. Okay? 1000% yes. Like, it's not even a question. Releasing a year after the Burning Crusade, Blizzard triples down on everything that worked before. First, Blizzard drops a CG trailer that's quite frankly a better movie than what most streaming services put out today. Like, it's been over a decade since this thing dropped, and I still go back to rewatch it. Next, they go back to Warcraft.
Even the Vanilla WoW trailer is so well done that it doesn't even compare. It was like 10 years in advance or something. People were not ready to see these cinematics back in the day. It was so good.
3 one more time to make Arthas the expansion's next villain, who, just to be clear, is Warcraft's most popular character by far.
Probably the greatest, most notorious villain ever introduced to Warcraft.
And that,
sorry for cutting the video again, was probably a mistake to make Arthas the villain. And it was not a mistake because Arthas was the villain, because Arthas was the best villain of all time. Everybody loved him. He was in Warcraft before. Everybody knew him. And this is why, it's part of the reason why Wrath of the Lich King was such a good expansion for people. But what happened after that? You cannot top this. You have the most popular, the most loved character in the entire series Now you cannot create a character that is more loved than Arthas. That's it. That's peak story for you. You are not gonna make players happy again.
That's because in Warcraft 3, you got to play as Arthas and watch him slowly transform from a humble prince reigning in chaos.
Can the formalities, Uther. I'm not king yet.
To the Lich King reclaiming his frozen throne. Like seriously, the story of Arthas is pretty much Breaking Bad, but in the Warcraft universe.
You're goddamn right.
Wrath of the Lich King wasn't just another expansion, it was Blizzard proving they knew exactly why players love World of Warcraft. But don't just take my word for it.
Wrath of the Lich King
is probably my favorite expansion.
Like straight up, without a question, is the best. The classes are way better. Version. Just infinitely more fun for me to play. Of the expansion that ever came out.
Yeah, Wrath was an awesome time.
And I mean, who could blame them? There was just so much love in this expansion.
It was an honor to be able to come work on the team to help shape the game that I'd loved for so long.
Because they add this new Death Knight hero class any faction can play as, a more customizable dual specialization skill tree to help players build their character exactly as they wanted.
It started as, how do I save action bars? And it turned into what it is now.
And build new phasing technology so everyone could immerse themselves seamlessly in live cinematic quests.
That's the new one, I think, the new cinematic.
Game, and it remains a linchpin of the game for the past 10 years.
And all this combined made Blizzard's biggest expansion ever, selling 2.8 million copies in just 24 hours and driving WoW subscriptions to an all-time peak of 12 million people.
That's insane. 12 million subscribers.
Chances are this is the last time you're going to see them for quite a while.
Like, for context, that's more than the entire population of Sweden, okay? Which clearly implies that Blizzard's got a lot more money. But Blizzard creates a new problem that even technology couldn't solve. You see, Arthas wasn't just any other villain, because his story started all the way back in Warcraft 3 and was foreshadowed through much of World of Warcraft. He'd always been there, sitting on his throne with what is probably the coolest sword known to man. But after beating Arthas, his story and a huge part of what made Warcraft so special was gone. If World of Warcraft was going to carry on, Blizzard would need to fill the giant void Arthas left behind. But I mean, what do you do after 6 years of setup for the Lich King? I mean, are you going to send some giant dragon with anger issues out of nowhere to completely destroy the entire planet?
That's exactly what they're going to do.
That'd just be stupid.
Yeah. Cataclysm was not all bad, but they did some bad decisions.
Okay then. Apparently that's exactly what they do. However, during development of World of Warcraft's third expansion, Blizzard gets acquired by one Activision CEO, Bobby Kotick.
Our responsibility is to bring joy and fun to people around the world.
Now, for the next 20 seconds, I have no choice but to speedrun you through the corporate nightmare that is Activision Blizzard, so bear with me because I promise you this is important to World of Warcraft's future. Alright, so in 1991, Blizzard becomes a real company through the power of friendship. Then in 95, a company whose only talent seems to be buying other companies buys Blizzard. But when we hit the 2000s, Bobby's company, Activision, starts making gazillions by spamming the ever-loving bejesus out of their franchises.
Yeah, Call of Duty.
Your Spider-Man, your Guitar Heroes, your Happy Meal toys, and of course, your Call of Duties.
You want the gloves off?
Yep.
They're off.
Except if you look closely...
That's exactly where Blizzard shifted to making games for gamers to devs making games for money. That's where it shifted. Activision fucked it all up. I call it right now. Fuck. And it was before Cataclysm. I think they acquired them during TBC or in the beginning of Wrath of the Lich King. I don't remember exactly when.
You'll notice that none of those franchises have an MMO that specializes in what Bobby wants most.
Money!
Now this makes Bobby mad.
Money.
So in 2008, he merges with the Talentless company to get all of their companies and renames the new company to Activision Blizzard. And now you're probably wondering what the big deal is. Well, as of 2008, nothing. I'll be honest, nothing really happens. But as of 2010, World of Warcraft's next expansion starts to move the game in a different direction.
Okay,
now,
so they acquired them as they were releasing Wrath of the Lich King. That's what would happen. Okay.
Positive side, having Deathwing the giant murder dragon blow up Azeroth turned out to be a really good in-world excuse to modernize a few zones and completely refresh others. In doing so, it creates a more welcoming environment for new players to join in and not feel lost from 6 years of content. Also, they give the Horde goblins to play as, and then they give the Alliance freaking werewolves. So I'm gonna be honest, I'm kind of in. I mean, who doesn't like werewolves, right? But Blizzard's goal to make the game more friendly for newcomers came with a few unexpected problems. They streamlined raid matchmaking, allowing anyone to just press a button to find a group, which sounds great on paper.
That wasn't Wrath. That was not Cataclysm.
But in practice, caused newer
But
players...
that may have been an Activision decision to do it, because they acquired them in the beginning of Wrath, and maybe they asked the dev to make a dungeon finder during Wrath of the King. That was probably Activision decision, and maybe the devs were like, well, we should not do that, but they still did it.
Unknowingly disrupting what were already impossible raids.
That was a legendary moment.
They wiped the narrative slate clean with Deathwing's angry fire, but that just caused the connection to the story to feel like it came out of nowhere. And surprisingly, the problem with the biggest repercussions came from the in-game mounts.
StarCraft II Wings of Liberty made less money than the first Sparkle Pony horse in World of Warcraft. A $15 microtransaction horse made more money.
We're
than StarCraft
so dumb. Just imagine if we can come back in time and just convince every single player of World of Warcraft to not buy the mount, and actually to unsubscribe when the mount came out. You know what? The microtransaction would not even be close to what we know today. That was the start.
Yeah, and unsurprisingly, this left a lot of fans with foresight for the future feeling salty.
Fucking best mount in the game.
Ooh.
I don't even care.
Never saw that before.
I don't care. This makes me mad.
See, previously,
because he never showers, he probably still has salt in his hair today.
You'd buy World of Warcraft and the expansion, pay a monthly sub, and away you went.
Excited. Very excited.
This, albeit an unintuitive strategy, financially incentivized Blizzard to make great content, because if they didn't, then no one would buy the expansion, which of course would put them in a lot of trouble. Except with this new microtransaction-based strategy, that was no longer the case. Because if they were able to make something in 5 minutes with one person that outsold something that takes an entire department to make in 7 years?
Well, I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Regardless, Cataclysm sold a record-breaking 3.3 million copies in a single day and regained 10 of the 12 million subscribers that Arthas gave Blizzard. So technically, World of Warcraft was safe.
It was safe, but not... Look, you can look at the sales and say the sales were good, but the sales are made from the hype. Then how many subscribers did they lost in a month? That's the juicy thing. That's what we want to know.
The heck out of this thing.
But when we look closer, we can see players weren't as satisfied as they once were.
There you go.
Azeroth was completely revamped, but no one really experienced it necessarily. Players just sort of logged in and... oh, I guess I spawn here now. Also, the whole murder dragon that destroys the entire planet narrative, it just kind of fizzles out like a Disney movie, which, like, it isn't even a bit. It straight up has the same castle and firework ending.
You are Azeroth's true guardians, and the future of this world is in your hands.
Was this actually the end of Cataclysm of Dragon's Soul? I don't remember that. That's fucking funny.
Who greenlit that? But let's be real, okay? After amazing expansions like Burning Crusade or the Wrath of the Lich King,
feels great.
Players were fine tolerating a so-so expansion.
I've been waiting long enough. 10.5-hour shift to work, 6-hour wait for the game.
6-hour wait.
Blizzard was cooking the next big expansion with awesome characters who used crazy magic, wielded the sickest swords, or whatever the heck Green Jesus is apparently capable of. You see, after taking down Benedict Cumberbatch, the world was hyped for whatever insane, muscle-bound, fire-breathing Warcraft setting Blizzard was cooking next.
The pandas. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's common. Oh yeah.
Is this actually the game?
Dude, people were so mad about this, but I think this is one of the favorite expansion of so many people. So yeah, it was a shift in the game design for sure. Especially the zones. The zones are more vibrant than any zones before that. With the colors, I mean.
Okay, so apparently pandas are in.
That cinematic was cool though.
Now, while this is 1000% a curveball, Mists of Pandaria came packed with a surprising amount of goodies. First off, Master Shifu is beyond thrilled. Next, the game adds the Pandarin as a faction-fluid playable race capable of using the new Monk class, which is a first for the series. They center the game's theme around Chinese culture and architecture that, quite frankly, looks incredible. And lastly, they add a Pokemon.
Oh, fucking hell, man. You have to remember that.
So here's a look of what it would look like. This is just a mock-up.
Yeah, it looks exactly like that. Oh, fucking... Why do they have to add pet battle, man? That doesn't belong in World of Warcraft at all.
I won't lie, the new direction is a little surprising, but it looks like it technically still works. I mean, the expansion sells
well, we're just ignoring the fact that pet battle exists and we just do other things, but come on.
7 million copies in just a week and returns the sub count right back to 10 million.
Oh, really? Okay.
So yeah, Mists of Pandaria is technically a success. But if you're like me, you might be wondering why the heck Blizzard would go from something like this to this.
The pet battle system takes all pets and merges them into a Pokemon-like system of turn-based combat.
And that's not the best system, by the way. It works, but...
Turns out North America wasn't the only one who loved World of Warcraft. Because when you look at the subscription data, you can see China accounted for a huge piece of that pie. With that in mind, the idea to embrace Chinese culture starts making a ton of sense. And in fairness, pandas were technically a thing in Warcraft 3.
I bring pandemonium!
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, they were kind of awesome.
They were, yeah.
However,
they could have made it differently, I guess.
Had a lot of interesting features. It also marked the beginning of a bigger shift in Blizzard's design. The game was now more accessible, more vibrant, and more colorful.
They looked at it and said, this isn't the Warcraft I know. The Warcraft I know is about orcs and humans and dragons, and this feels like a different game. This feels almost childish.
It supported more gimmicky features.
Yeah, that's
like
100% true.
Battle system,
I agree.
Meant to bring in a newer, younger audience.
I feel like they just kind of gave it a theme to attract more players that are new to the game, but it's not so much for experienced players that are already in it.
And that monetization train, well, it didn't seem to be slowing down any time soon.
No, because they're fucking making money. They're going to do microtransaction until the end of day, or until they don't make money from it. If they lose subscriber, if people are not buying the microtransaction, they lose subscriber for it, people stop buying the new games, blah, blah, blah. They're going to stop doing the microtransaction. The power is in our hand. We still have power. But because it's so deep in, and it's been a lot of years that they have done that, it's probably going to be hard to remove the system. But back in the day, like I said, if we just didn't buy the first microtransaction, the first mount that came out, microtransaction would be nowhere near what we know today.
No mistake, Mists of Pandaria seems to be a solid expansion by all accounts, but its direction seemed to be drifting World of Warcraft further away from what appealed to the core fans.
Like nobody, I don't know a single person that's saying, oh, pandas, I'm gonna play this game for the pandas.
A mistake Hollywood forced Blizzard to fix in the next expansion.
Warlord.
We are halfway through World of Warcraft's expansion, and it looks like this one's gonna be a big return to what made Warcraft Warcraft. I mean, look at this trailer.
Yeah. The lore was perfect, I think. The lore was really good.
It's packed with so much testosterone that even Joe Rogan wants in on it.
Oh, yeah, down ballistic.
Now, this change clearly worked because Warlords of Draenor sells a record-breaking 3.3 million copies in a single day and brings those juicy subscriptions right back
even
up
higher
to
than Mist?
10.5 million players.
Ooh.
Nice. Nice. Nice.
So Blizzard's got to be feeling pretty good, right?
Nope.
Well, not exactly. You see, World of Warcraft started getting so huge that around this time, Hollywood's working on an official movie, and to capitalize on all of that player hype,
I remember that.
They decide to set that movie in a date and time 90% of players were completely unaware of.
They should have made the story of Arthas. Was it that hard? The first movie should have been the story of Arthas. This is what brings everyone together. The story of Arthas is good. People know it. It's been in many games. Fucking, that was the right choice. They should have made the story of Arthas. Why the fuck did they make this?
To help fans unaware of the movie
was not that bad,
incredibly
though,
strange timeline choice, Blizzard sets this expansion in an alternate timeline 35 years in the past. That's right. Somehow, World of Warcraft, the fantasy game, now has time travel.
Yeah, well, that's not new, but...
Okay.
You have Chromie.
What's wrong with you?
So, quick recap. At this point in World of Warcraft store, you've stopped Illidan, Arthas, Smaug, and you've imprisoned some new Orc War Chief, Garrosh Hellscream, for being kind of evil. Well, in this expansion, Garrosh magically escapes and somehow travels back in time to stop his dad, Grommash Hellscream, heck of a name by the way, from drinking this demon blood and also turning evil. And together, as definitely not evil people, the two team up to build the Iron Horde in order to take over Azeroth. Now, do you have any idea how much World of Warcraft lore I had to read to find out why a giant bald orange orc man was capable of using time travel in a world that looked like Middle-earth?
I still don't know.
Because the answer was too much. And what's worse is, it doesn't even seem to matter.
This makes me mad.
Because everything about this expansion seems to just implode on itself with barely any content, causing subscription numbers to fall off a freaking cliff.
Yeah, so this was the end of the MMO. This was the end of the MMO. How do you call them? Garrison. Garrison are literally isolating every single player in their own town. Like, what the fuck were they thinking when they made that? What the fuck? This is not when we said player housing. Man, they dropped the ball there. And I think the last raid, the time between the last raid and the next expansion was about 1 year and a couple of months. It was insane.
In fear of losing more subscribers,
which is why World of Warcraft is that
decides
hated.
To give up halfway through and focus on the next expansion. Which, like, okay, sure, but now, like me, you're probably wondering what the heck this expansion even did. Well, it updates the character models to look less nightmare-y.
Don't worry,
brings
Legion
the
is coming.
Of the Sims games
Legion
to World of
great.
Warcraft through a new base-building feature that they call garrisons.
The garrison was a persistent space of your own in the world that you could customize
it's an
as
MMO.
you saw fit.
Because as you can probably tell, people who like this...
I'm coming up with 32.
It's an MMO. You don't isolate people. That's not how it works. We need to make friends.
People who like this...
Ah.
would clearly be the same person. Also, for roughly the same price as the expansion itself, players can now pay to boost any character to level 90 or buy in-game gold, which is the game's currency, with real money using a new currency called
the WoW token was in
WoW
Warlord?
token.
It's a way for players to exchange.
Oh, no
with each
wonder
other
Warlord of Draenor was that hated. What the fuck? I didn't know it was that soon. I thought it was in Legion. Shit.
In-game currency.
I fundamentally love when games add multiple levels of currency to their game. It's always a great sign. Always. Because why play years of critically acclaimed content when you can just buy your way through with zero context of what's actually happening? Now, how do players take this? Not well. In fact, the only positive thing I could find about Warlords of Draenor seems to be the Joe Rogan trailer. Like I said
the raids
before,
were great, the dungeons were great. The content in Warlords of Draenor was not that bad, to be honest. It's just everything around it was bad.
After players
and
saw
the
how
Garrison
little
was bad
content
too.
the expansion really had, subscriptions fell so far that Blizzard just stopped reporting them altogether. To this day, no one knows the official subscription numbers because of how bad this expansion bombed.
This expansion was terrible. Almost all of the tier list videos have this is the worst.
Then something new happened.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Fire!
Oh!
fire! Oh my goodness!
See, those subscriptions, they just kept falling.
Goodbye.
Keep falling.
It's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Legion is coming, guys.
And falling.
We're good. Good.
Shut up. This emergency.
I played the shit out of Legion. That's my most played expansion. That was good.
Okay, so in an act of what looks very much like desperation, Blizzard goes back to the drawing board and basically tries to recreate all of these expansions while simultaneously trying to forget these. Which causes them to bring Illidan back using the magic of plot and drop one of the sickest trailers they've had in a long time. I mean, everything about that trailer is just mwah, so it has to be good.
Yeah.
Right? Well, the answer is yes, because Blizzard pulls out all the freaking stops. They bring back Burning Crusade's Illidan. They add a new Demon Hunter class like they did in Lich. They add new artifact weapons to let players craft iconic Warcraft weapons for themselves. They add the giant and beautiful city of Suramar to explore. And because the Burning Legion is back, they add super cool invasions that happen sporadically in the world that anyone can take part of.
That was such uber ponage.
I mean, this was one of the first expansions I ever had, and like I remember going in, you'd see the invasions, and everything was just sick, and you felt like you were part of something, and it was like it felt awesome. Legion is sick. So it's not a shock whatsoever to see that Legion sells 3.3 million copies in a single day, proving that World of Warcraft was not only back, but it was safe once again. Finally, Blizzard devs could see their families again.
They did it! Our world is saved!
Except, despite how much Legion did right, and believe me, it did a lot of things right. World of Warcraft was turning 12 years old, and with all that age came a lot of bloat. Overly complicated systems dedicated to the most hardcore players, an influx of microtransactions in 20 different currencies, and social features being somehow eradicated in favor of more accessibility.
In an effort to achieve more accessibility, we kind of removed some of the reasons why you needed to play with the same group of people over and over.
You see, the direction Blizzard started with Cataclysm...
So yeah, it was right about that. They did improve the PUG experience. You had personal loot in Legion, which I still like, and I don't understand how it's not in the game anymore. I loved personal loot. You know what I loved about personal loot? I knew in every single raid I did, I was getting a certain amount of loot. I knew if we killed 7 bosses, I would get, for example, 2 loots. If we killed 8 bosses, I would get 3 loots. There was like a guaranteed amount of loots and sometime extra.
Through other expansions, had finally caught up with them. Their audience was no longer the same audience that they started with.
Yeah, I got the laptop in the car so I can load it on the way, in all honesty.
Because at this point, it looked like they had completely split into different directions.
They did.
Of those people started asking questions.
Have you ever thought about adding servers for previous expansions as they were then?
No.
Classic server? Oh no.
And by the way, you don't want to do that either. You think you do, but you don't.
Dude, this must haunt him in his dreams, though. That phrase. But he still made money, but... Battle for Azeroth. I hated it.
I'm not gonna lie. Straight up telling your most dedicated customers at an event that they paid to be at that they were the ones that were actually wrong?
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
But despite Blizzard's response of knowing exactly what's best for the average World of Warcraft player, they also realized that maybe they did stray a little far from the old days of Alliance versus Horde.
I don't think... Look, it was not 100% wrong. I think Classic WoW was not made for everybody. Classic WoW as an audience, yes. But it is not made for everybody. I don't think everybody that plays retail right now would enjoy Classic more. But there is definitely some people that prefers Classic over retail. And I think retail could take note on Classic to become more OG and be a better game in itself. Like, I think we still need to come back a little bit more to what OG World of Warcraft was, especially in the lore and what the zones looks like, how the class plays like, especially. I don't really like the fact that the classes are so hard to play, so many buttons to press. I don't think this to me, it doesn't make the game better to have like 3 different rows of 12 spells or something. I don't even know how to keybind my spells anymore. I don't think this is necessarily a great experience for most people, especially for new players. And even on top of that, PvP. If you're a new player wanting to do PvP, you're gonna get fucked. It's not fun.
Are Azeroth's true guardians.
Seriously though, who greenlit that? So, with Battle for Azeroth, their idea is, and please stop me if you've heard this before, to go back to what made Warcraft Warcraft. I mean, look,
that time it
even
didn't
the
work.
Cover art is a reference to the original Warcraft games. But I'm not gonna lie, there's something I just don't understand in this situation. See, after 14 years of expansions, the Alliance and Horde have overcome the world, ending like 7 times. They killed a Lich together, a Demon Hunter, a Lord of the Rings character. They figured out time travel. Oh yeah, and a god the size of a planet stabs the world with his sword.
What sword? What do you mean?
Way, that happened. So I guess my question for the whole bringing back the Alliance versus Horde hating each other thing would be, why? Why? Why?
Our responsibility is to bring joy and fun to people around the world.
Now, normally I disagree
he looks
with
so
Bob,
disinterested.
But when combining the pitch of this expansion with the hype that Legion built, Battle for Azeroth sells a record-breaking 3.4 million copies
that's the
in
most
its first
sold.
day. So clearly people wanted this because Battle for Azeroth not only becomes the fastest selling World of Warcraft expansion ever made, but it also becomes the fastest selling PC game ever. Except nothing about this expansion made any sense, because aside from the initial pitch, everything was lame. And if we look back to what worked before, then technically Battle for Azeroth shouldn't even be working. The leader of the Alliance went from the sickest looking dude I've ever seen in my life to someone I can only guess does not like the touch of sand.
It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
The leader of the Horde is now a frickin' banshee that commits genocide because the equivalent of a rude comment. And when
to be honest, I was happy about that when Sylvanas did this. I was like, finally, there's someone that's willing to kill someone. Like, it's been a while in the story since like a good character did something bad, like for real. But it was so refreshing, and that for the Horde screaming the cinematic, dude, just that scream might have sold something like 500 copies. Just in itself.
An army, she just kills the main guy while everyone else watches, and then somehow pulls a Team Rocket by blasting off again.
Okay.
So yeah, nothing about this expansion makes any sense. The story feels forced, the community's more split than ever, the leads are basically Looney Tune characters, and the game was the most bloated it had ever been. There had to be more to the story, and it turns out there was. You see, World of Warcraft subscription numbers get leaked for the first time since Draenor.
Did they?
And let me tell you, it's not good. You see, Battle for Azeroth brought in sales with a great pitch, but it also dropped World of Warcraft subscription numbers to the lowest point in the game's history. The players had spoken. They 1.7? And if Blizzard wanted to keep the game alive, they'd have to do something drastic.
Cookies and cream is actually my all-time favorite dessert.
Okay. Cheers in cholesterol.
But I understand that for some of you,
people
your favorite flavor
is vanilla.
Let's
go. Let's go. Still one of the greatest cinematic of all time.
To go from the guy who said that everybody else was wrong and that they knew the answer the entire time, only to be that same guy on stage giving them exactly what they wanted.
You don't want to do that.
That might be one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen. But I'm gonna go out.
You know what was the most embarrassing thing that Blizzard did on stage? Diablo Immortal. That shit was embarrassing. They just sent that guy in like a fucking gladiator arena without gear, without a sword. Fucking, this guy was dead, man. They just killed his character. This guy cannot come back from that. It's done.
on a limb and guess that
That was the
players were
worst.
A-okay with that.
Feels great.
Now, for those of you who don't know, in 2019, Blizzard brings grown men to tears by doing the unthinkable and completely reviving the original World of Warcraft exactly as it was in 2004.
That was a great decision.
Which is insane.
Oh, I started tearing up. I really did. And I barely heard about the new expansion.
Because the only other company I
He
can think of
doesn't
that's
care.
done anything
Just
like
like
this
passing.
is the Halo guys, and we saw exactly how that turned out, didn't we? It still hurts to this day. But this was a way bigger deal than most people thought, because for the very first time in World of Warcraft history, players could actually compare what Classic did versus what Retail did without any of the magic of nostalgia.
Yeah.
It wasn't some theoretical member berry anyone could shrug off anymore. Because the differences were clear. You see, when it came to Classic, World of Warcraft didn't feel like a game to players. It surprisingly seemed to come off more like an early social network with plenty of earnable accolades to show off your hard work.
What got you
Yeah.
the role in Twisters? Yeah, I see why you got the role.
Whereas Retail was kind of the complete opposite. It was a mess of microtransactions, confusing
It is
plot
still
lines
that.
meant to pump subscriber numbers up, and 20 different underlying
Yep.
gameplay systems tailored to multiple highly specific groups of people.
It's just simply not something I'm not interested in anymore.
Seriously, Retail had to maintain the pet battle fans, the garrison fans, the artifact fans, the PvP fans.
Is there
the
pet battle fans for real? Like, is there people that really cares? They only play World of Warcraft to mainly play the pet battles? I don't. Maybe some, but I don't think this is a majority. I don't even think this is 1% of the player base.
PvE fans, the mount fans, the flying mount fans, and raid fanatics
there's
who
a
are
lot of those,
obsessed with
though.
playing the game with hundreds of screen cluttering add-ons. Like, honestly, I'm just amazed that the Blizzard devs are still alive, quite frankly. Except
Okay.
here's the real kicker. It really wouldn't matter which version anyone liked more because Blizzard decides to
Yeah, both.
support them all. If the developers barely saw their families before, it was about to get a lot worse. In 2020, Shadowlands brings the Lich King back, only to be killed instantly so his helmet can open a giant portal to the afterlife. In 2021, everyone calls in sick again to experience the Dark Portal one more time. In 2022, Arthas returns despite what Shadowlands just told us, and Dragonflight creates an entirely new audience. In 2023, Blizzard confuses everyone once more by
System
making yet another
Discovery.
version of Classic. And in 2024, they join the Battle Royale craze 7 years too late, bring back Benedict Cumberwing, and also drop the War Within expansion as the first of an upcoming 6-year trilogy that acknowledges the giant sword-shaped elephant.
What
in the
sword?
room.
What do you mean?
You see, the game just keeps going and going. But the real question we all want to
Shadowlands.
know is why?
Money.
The most obvious
Money.
answer has always and will always come down to money, which
There
when we
you
do
go.
the math is kind of hard to argue. Assuming you've played from the day that the game released, bought every expansion, and never missed a month of subscriptions, you would have spent around $3,667.60, or when you account for the 20 years of compounding inflation, $4,968.38.
You what?
Did you say sorry if your wife was in prison? Oh, was there if your wife was in the room? Okay.
You what?
Except money isn't the cause, it's the result. Because the real answer is much simpler than that. Looking back, World of Warcraft is at its best when it focuses on core MMO gameplay with a grounded Warcraft story players can experience together. And it's clearly at its worst when it focuses on everything outside of that, like gimmicky systems, monetization, or endings that bring a smile to Disney. Yet at the heart of every good and less good expansion has always been the exact same thing. People. People who lined up hours at a midnight launch just to play early.
Waiting for the World of Warcraft expansion to come out.
Who collectively called in sick to go through the dark portal with everyone else.
So tonight I'm gonna buy it, go set it up, and play all night long.
Who started friendships with a simple wave. Who screamed Leroy Jenkins.
Dude, I miss those days. When you just made friend by grouping in dungeons. That doesn't happen
overly
anymore.
expensive PC only to
At
play
all.
this specific game. You see, it all comes down to people. Blue-collar workers workers, white-collar workers, celebrities, moms, dads, or people who use table salt to protest $25 mounts.
Asmongold was right though. That was a huge mistake from Blizzard. Maybe not money-wise, but
vanilla, because World of Warcraft was never just a game.
Like, sure, it's a job. Sure, we got a company to run, we got a product to put out, but that's not the point.
I got like 7 of my friends in a WoW. My ex-girlfriend, I got ex-girlfriend. Emphasis on the ex.
Without the community, WoW just wouldn't be what it is.
I love WoW. I'll always love WoW.
I love World of Warcraft.
I will always love WoW.
WoW was like a huge part of who I was.
I am a WoW Andy through and through.
It's a place people can call home.
I'm a simple man. Okay, I love World of Warcraft.
That's where I met
this
my
guy
husband,
played World of
A lot
Warcraft?
of memories attached to it.
Didn't know.
And I go back to it all the time.
So I'm going to play WoW.
I'm gonna go home for the heck out of this thing.
It's that simple.
We're all kind of united by this space, you know, that we spend a lot of time in, and that's a very special thing.
Yeah, that's Kareem, dude.
And as long as that door stayed open,
I think you're going to be seeing pictures of me in this for quite a long time.
it'd always be unstoppable. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. If you like this video, then you're definitely going to want to check out how Call of Duty became unstoppable next. As always, you're beautiful, you're goose-tastic, and keep it cute.
Now we can finally play the game. Oh yeah. Okay, Kenny, add Eyes of the Beast to your hotbar.
Great video, man. That one was great. But oh my god, this feels nostalgic. Just that whole video feels nostalgic. He didn't talk about the war within, but he could have had it. How do you call it? Early access? Oh my god. They just added that to the microtransaction. Is it even called a microtransaction? You have to pay something like $40 to have that 3 days early access.